going to demonstrate the use of oil poly. This is the product that we use. It's General Finishes is the brand, and the product is called Armor Seal. We use a satin finish. So here's a bucket that's already got the product in it. So I want to start off, I've got a designated stick to mix the poly. I want to make sure I mix it well. So it has urethane and tung oil in it. It takes about 4 to 6 hours to dry. Like I said, it's a wipe-on poly. We're going to use a foam brush to apply it. We've got a designated cart. This is our poly cart. So we're just going to wheel it to where we're going to work. And right now I'm going to apply poly to this barnwood top. So all horizontal surfaces get oil poly. We wipe it on, like I said, we don't spray it. I'm going to go ahead and hit my edges first. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I apply to the top first, I could get some drips. And of course I'll go back and wipe those drips, but there's a tendency it's going to show that there's a drip there. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply to the top. I'm going to apply with the grain, just back and forth, kind of like I'm painting. I just want to make sure I get 100% coverage. Now this particular top has been stained, and it was stained with an oil-based stain. We always want to let the stain dry at least 12 hours before applying the oil poly. And the reason we poly our tops is because it's a little more durable finish than the wax finish we use on the rest of the product. It is a little more involved. We're going to put a minimum of 3 coats. We're going to put 2 coats of the poly, and we count the stain as a 3rd coat. So if I was starting from raw wood, I would actually put 3 coats of the oil poly on the product. You can see here I'm trying to follow the grain as best I can. I'm going to go over one more time with the grain very lightly. The challenge with the wipe-on poly is you tend to leave brush marks. So if I apply with a lot of pressure, I'm going to leave more of a brush mark. This product does actually kind of flow and level out over time, so that's an advantage. But we still want to be careful about the way we apply it. I'm going to go back over one more time and just make sure I got my edges and make sure nothing dripped off the side. And then I'm going to go take my brush and go underneath the top. You can do this with either a rag or your brush. And just make sure I get any possible drips. Then I'm going to stand back and take a look at it from different angles. And just make sure I did get 100% coverage. Now it does look a little light in this spot, but that is actually the color of the wood, because I did actually get it. So this one's complete. So now I'm going to just go ahead and put this up on the shelf and get it out of our way. Now we're going to move on. We've got a side table that's got 2 coats of poly on it already, but it needs 1 more coat. So between all our coats, we do a light sanding with a 220 grit. This happens to be a 220 grit sanding pad. And what I'm going to do is just lightly sand with the grain over the whole top. I'm going to go around the edges. I've got a dusting rag that I'm just gonna just lightly wipe off the dust. And now we're ready to go ahead and apply the poly. I've got a lot of poly on my brush here. I'm gonna put just a little bit on the top to get some of that poly off the brush and go around the perimeter, do my edges again, very carefully. It's not quite as easy to see after it's already had a coat on. You gotta, take a look at it from different angles. We don't have perfect light in this room. And I just rotate it around and make sure I get good coverage. Then I'm gonna just go across the top. You do wanna make sure you have enough material on your brush so you get 100% coverage. Now I can see from this angle, I have a lot better vision to be able to see where the poly is and where it's not. And then I'm just going to walk around it and just take a look and make sure I did get full coverage. And it looks as though I did. So you can see on this piece, the base of this side table is almost flush with the exterior. So it's kind of hard to get underneath. I'm actually going to take my finger, since I've got a glove on, and just kind of wipe it to make sure that there's no drips. I could use a rag, which actually would be a good alternative to using my finger. But just to make sure that it doesn't build up underneath there. So this one's done, and we'll just put it out of the way and let it dry. Like I said, it takes about 4 to 6 hours, depending on the temperature or time of year, for it to dry and be ready for another coat. But this is the final coat for this piece. So that's kind of the basics on how to use oil poly.